right? So the very need for self-awareness and the very need for discussing something like interpersonal skills come from the fact that we perceive ourselves as being separate from each other. And of course, that's where conflicts also manifest, internal conflicts going out in terms of social and religious and communal. Okay, so conflicts manifest from that point where there is an acknowledgement of separation. Of course, energetically, as an earth, as a world, we are moving to a point where that gap is merging, but it definitely helps if we are more aware of ourselves and close that gap on our own rather than waiting for that thrust in any form, because that thrust might come in a very different way. For example, if you look at the recent volcano incident in Iceland, thousands of people stranded at airports across the world, and if you look at most airports, international airports particularly, there is that whole snobbish air to the atmosphere where people stay separate, do not mix with each other much unless you really know everyone else. Now if you look at people stranded on the airport, there are people sleeping around, sleeping on the floor, everyone helping each other with food, water. It's because there is an external manifestation of that internal conflict which has pushed them to a situation where they're so uncomfortable that they're bound to get together. But do we need that volcano every time? At times we cannot really afford it, and therefore it's better not to wait for that internal volcano to erupt. It's better to be aware. So when we talk of aggressive and passive behavior, both of them obviously come from these three primal so-called negative emotions of fear, anger and guilt. Aggressive and passive, these are primarily modes of expression of these three emotions. Aggressive is where you go all out and express your fear and anger and guilt in a non-desirable way, non-desirable to yourself and perhaps to people around you. Passive is obviously where you experience these three emotions again, but you choose to suppress it. Of course, it may come to a point where you become passively aggressive and start expressing it in a very subtle way where perhaps you don't realize how you're expressing it, but the others feel the hint. Now, when we talk of control dramas that we indulge in, the aggressor usually tends to indulge in a control drama of what is called as an intimidator, or typically a bully. Okay? I'm sure all of us remember some kind of a bully in school, in our class. There's usually this one big fat fellow who tries and beats up everybody, eats everybody else's tiffins, steals everyone's pencils. Right? So where does that intimidator come from? Is he the intimidator simply because he's big and well built?
Maybe he also has a rank and takes size ego. Along with the size.
Okay.
Ego.
There's an ego. Again, where does it come from?
Ego is basically a sense of self that is existing within.
Mm-hmm. Is it sense of self or sense of lack of self? If it was a sense of if ego were a sense of self simply means I am and I acknowledge myself as I am. Whereas the kind of situation that we are talking about is where we're saying that I am not and therefore I need to keep thrusting myself.
Kind of constant reminder to myself.
Yeah, when I'm stealing somebody's pencil or I'm pushing somebody else down, or I'm threatening that small little fellow, what I'm saying is, I need to do that because otherwise I would not exist. Right? It's a threat to self, and therefore that's where the intimidator comes from. It's from a space of extreme fear, where I say that till the time I make my presence felt in a very aggressive manner outside, I will not exist, my personality is not being recognized, and therefore I need to shout, I need that space around me, I need that aggressive body language Right? And I need that whole platform to speak and shout and yell about so that I am recognized. It comes from a fear of lack of existence, lack of others acknowledging me, primarily coming from the fact that I don't acknowledge myself. Okay? And that's where the intimidator comes from. I'm sure some of us might relate to the intimidator drama in certain relationships in our lives. If you think back, is there a situation where there's a certain relationship where you often people tell that person, do it this way? Typically in a parental relationship, come home before 7 o'clock or else. Right? And why does that or else come? Right? I mean, if you have a good sense of self-worth, you would probably tell the child that this is the reason why I say you need to come home before 7. You may make your own choices, but understand these are the consequences. Right? Now, it's the same thing that you're communicating, but why do you say or else? Is because it's not so much of the concern for the child that comes at that point. What's dominating you is, are you listening to me? Right? So what happens, it's not so much about the fact that you do not love your child when you're being intimidating. It's because of the fact that the lack of love for self overrides the love for child. And therefore you tend to say, you better behave. Right? So that's the intimidator control drama, where we try and control, we try and dominate, try and get work done by sheer predominance. The second second control drama where aggressiveness is expressed is what is called as an interrogator. An interrogator is typically a person who is likely to be questioning everything and anything that you do, being a skeptic, being suspicious. Typically, let's say for example you walk into a shop, you want to buy something which is slightly more expensive, let's say an electronic item. The salesman obviously tries to sell you on the basis of all the good points, and you keep questioning, what if this happens? What if there is a power trip? What if something goes wrong? What if the warranty is not valid? What if... There's so many questions that come up, and why does all that interrogation come up as a pattern?
Uncontrollable inquisition or curiosity. Curiosity knows no bounds. Person doesn't know where to draw the line as far as curiosity goes.
Is it just curiosity? The focus should be on me, okay?
Whether he's making the right decision or the wrong
Okay.
purchase. The item.
Okay. Unsure.
What will happen? What will be the reaction at home?
Which means I am supposed to be responsible for this purchase.
Because I'm making this.
Right? But I really don't want to be responsible. Therefore, I'd rather question the salesman. I'll blame him if things don't work. I was not responsible. The salesman gave me the wrong information. Right? Again, interrogator. Another form could be what is typically expressed in the form of a person who nags. Where were you? Why did you come home late? Who were you with? Right? Typically those kind of questions that rise in usually a marital relationship or even in a parental relationship, series of questions. Right? Again, where does that come from? Yes. I'm sorry? Low confidence, okay. Paranoia, again, fear, extreme sense of fear of losing. Okay. Right. Of course, there may be a sense of worry where you say, why were you late? I was worried about you. But that's different from having a volley of questions where you say, why were you late? And I think you were with this person. You keep lying to me. Right? The whole thing that goes on.
So many thoughts will come
And those thoughts come up simply, again, because of the fact that the focus is us, not so much the person who came late, but the fact that, does this person not value me? If he said he'll be coming in at 8 and he came in at 10, am I not worthy of those 2 hours? Okay. Again, there is a sense of fear of losing, which, as we said, comes from